expose them usually to an hour or two of sunlight of a certain kind of strength during the nighttime hours to extend their amount of sunlight exposure. And that in itself is a treatment. And it is done so by reducing the amount of melatonin that is present in a person's system. We find that in conditions like depression and schizophrenia, the hormone melatonin is present in lower amounts. So again, we can tie all these things in. The various medications that are used to treat for depression, lithium, antidepressants, operate through pineal hormones, very importantly so. So there's a long list of things, and again, I went through painful detail to review a number of those, and it is present in this paper, which is a new paper called the Eye for Rue, which is available in the back, and this is a review of the biological medical research of the pineal gland in the past 10 or 11 years. So this is new work that has come out since I wrote the book, and so this is the very newest thing, and it will probably be out just as one time, because I will, when it goes into the new book that I'm working on, the Eye for Rue, the editor usually shrinks things, so that's a struggle that all writers have to bear with. I'm certain I'll have to deal with it too. But let's look at it from a different perspective. In this, I'm going to use another paper that is also available called Kinetic Images of Light, Sunlight and Moonlight. Now, after this, we're going to stop and have questions. So it won't take too much longer. Just bear with me. If we ask the question of sunlight as it impacts upon biological systems, especially because the skin is the first eye, as one author has said. The skin is the first eye. The pineal gland is the second eye, and these two eyes are the third and fourth eyes. Because in the early life forms, the first eye that came into being was the skin. It was this thing which would receive light and convert it into its various forms. In the older life forms, the animal forms had eyes in the front of the head and eyes in the back of the head. And the eyes in the back of the head withdrew into the brain and became a gland in the higher life forms. The lower life form, it remains, for example, in the western fence lizard, as an eye on the top of the head. But in the more advanced forms, such as humans and primates, it became a gland, still reacting to light, still releasing hormones in relation to light and darkness. In the Kemetic concepts, again, this new paper that was just written, of images of sunlight and moonlight, Africans had very particular concepts for sunlight and moonlight. When it came to sunlight, they saw light in three different aspects. They saw it in terms of the sunrise, the full noonday sun, and sunset. Sunrise was pictured as the god Khepra, Khepera, a god which was pictured as a dung beetle rolling a ball, the sun, across the sky. Now, Khepra was used for a particular reason, because it seemed to portray the African knowledge of immortality. They knew that in the human condition, there was something in the human that didn't die. That when it had gone so far and appeared to be dead, something new would come out of it and take life all over again. And so they observed that the dung beetle, which would roll a ball of animal, usually elephant or a large animal like that, feces across the floor of the savannah and put it in a hole and bury its larva inside, that from this ball of dead fecal matter, here came new life, new animals bursting out and flying away. So again, the morning sun, something about the sun being born again was critical. The noonday sun was pictured as Horus Ben-Hotep, or the sun in its full radiant power. And you can read about this in The Gods of the Egyptians by Wallace Budge. But it was said to have been made by the Besnet, or the so-called blacksmiths. The Horus Ben-Hotep is a very, very ancient title. It goes all the way to the beginnings of Egypt. It goes all the way to the beginnings of Ethiopia, which preceded Egypt. It goes all the way to the beginnings of a place known as Kui land, the place in the Mountain of the Moon regions between the western Mountain of the Moon, the Rwenzori mountain range with the 12 peaks and one central peak, and the eastern Mountain of the Moon, or Kilimanjaro. It goes to the beginning of the Ainu people, the so-called Homo erectus type, that type which over 1 million years ago, these Africans later went out and populated the entire planet. So that's Horus Ben-Hutep, and that takes you back a taste. And when you get to that in studying the issue of the blacksmith, and not only the blacksmith seeth Edfu, but also asking the questions of Horus Ben-Hutep and the Ainu population and where did they originate from. And so you come across a story, which I won't have time to get, well, I'll touch one lightly here, the story of Ifa. Now remember Ifa, for those of you who have studied of Yoruba are familiar with Ifa, I'm certain, where Ifa speaks to a certain traditional system of science, if you will, of the relationship to the Orishas and to the deities of the unseen realm. But Ifa was also pictured as the first Twa person who made a mind map of the unconscious. Ifa was said to have gone, and this comes from the book, the Pygmy Katabu by Halei. Ifa was said to have gone inside the Mountain of the Moon. What does that mean? Ifa went inside of his own mind. Ifa went to the inner realm. And he was chasing a black pig, a black boar. And Ifa had these 3 spears. And Ifa was a hero hunter. He chased the boar inside the hill. And he said he took all 3 spears to throw them to slay this boar, or this pig. And he killed it. But the pig was too big to bring out. It's too big to carry out. So Ifa went on outside and got a rope to tie around the pig and pull it out. But when he went back inside with his rope, the pig was gone. And he saw a bloody trail going further on down inside the Mountain of the Moon. But Ifa, being fearless, went right on behind him. And he heard some noise as he went on down further. And lo and behold, he came across a woman with a white face who was a sorceress from the land of the dead. And you have to listen to the symbolism. This story is over 1 million years old. Listen to the story. And he says, and the woman tells him, "Are you dead?" He said, "No, I'm not dead. I just came in here by chance. I just went inside my inner mind by chance. I got tricked." And she says, "Oh, why don't you come with me and spend the night with me, try to get sweet with him?" And he was repulsed by her coming up like that. Because she wasn't an attractive white-faced soul at all. He was turned off, you know. But next thing you knew, she got close to him and checked the mood. She got close to him and she jumped on his back and rode him and says, "Now you go to my village. Brothers beware." Beware. Rode him to the village and said, "You're going to stay here for a while." He said, "Oh, I want to go home." "You got to stay here a while." Then the husband of the chief came up and said, "Are you dead?" He says, "No, I'm not dead." No, he asked the question, "Are you dead?" "No, I'm not dead." He said, "We got to stay here for a while." And so Ifa stayed there. He sat on a stool. The stool stuck to his behind. Again, the issue of the Archon stool and royalty. We have to consider all those points. And so then Ifa began to do the dance of the gods, to entertain these people. These people were so depressed. They were so gloomy and dreary. Does that sound familiar? That they needed Ifa to entertain them. Look at the parallel.